Even though Marvelous Designer is not a traditional 3D piece of software, there are some tools in here that are quite useful to streamline and simplify the process of taking the assets from Marvelous and bringing them to the next stage of the production. The first tool is the retopology tools, and we talk about it in another video. And the next one is called UV editor. If you haven't used any 3D application, you probably don't really know what's happening here, and I will not go into the detail of UV layout and things like that. This is simply too technical. But if you used 3ds Max or even ZBrush or things like that, more traditional programs, you probably are quite familiar with this layout. So what we have here is the 0 to 1, 0 to 1 tile, UV tile. V is the vertical and U is the horizontal line, and then we have the UVs for our garments. And right now it's quite messy. It doesn't really help anything, but we have some options in here, and something to keep in mind. This is very limited. This is the most basic tools that we can possibly have. We can't really edit the UVs. We can't really stitch anything. We can't stretch. We can't smooth. Nothing like that. This is simply to move things around and to scale them. And the point of that is to bring this asset with the UVs that we like, and in programs like, let's say, ZBrush, we can apply some detail maps if we're making collectibles, or we can apply those detail maps as fabric details if we are doing the asset for look dev or things like that. So to make it a little bit faster for us, there are some tools in here how to organize the UVs. If we right click, we can see there's the first one. It's called Fit UV to Unified from 0 to 1. If we click that, basically if we had garments outside of this 0 to 1 UV tile, everything will be packed in here, but it will not be packed in a traditional sense of the word if we used any other UV tools. This will simply take the position of the UVs and put them inside of this tile, and that's about it. There are some options in here: absolute length and relative UV coordinate, and this is again, this is very limited. It doesn't really do that much, but the option is there, and in any case we can probably play around to see if this will give us any better results. And for one thing, we can always use this to bring the UVs as close to the borders as we can. But the other option is more useful, and it's called Set UVs from Pattern Alignment. And what this will do, it will take the simulation garments, this layout of the garments that we've created in the 2D view, and the program will use this as the UV layout for our garments. And one thing to note is that nothing that we do in the UV editor changes the position of the garments in the simulation. The UVs are a separate thing, so what we do there is it stays there. So if we go back into the UV editor and we click Set UVs from Pattern Alignment, this is what we get. This is the exact same thing that we just saw in the 2D window of the simulation. And now this first option is more useful. If we click here, we see that all the UVs are packed inside of this UV tile. We can also move things around. We can use the UVs for other tiles. We can use the so-called UDIM technique that Mari first introduced, and then Substance Painter. So we can always modify our our UVs to get the best resolution for particular elements of the clothing, of the design. So it's definitely there for us. Then we have the last tool, which is called show wire, and this will simply show the wireframe. This will show all the edges and vertices on the geometry.
If you enjoy this content or find it useful, please consider supporting me by buying me a cup of coffee via the link in the description.
Apart from the right click on the canvas, we can also click the UVs themselves, and we have some options in here. So we can either flip the UVs horizontally, vertically, or we can use the align tools that are the same tools that we use in the 2D view in the simulation mode. So if we want to pack something somewhat quicker, we can select a few garments, then right click, align, and choose one of those options. In this case, let's press right, and we have the alignment done in this way. So it's just another tool to make the packing of the UV a little bit faster, but again, it's very basic. It's just moving things around. There is no such thing as stitching UVs or cutting them or anything like that. This is very bare bones, but this gets the job done. Then we have some tools at the top. We have the snapshot, and then we have the texture bake, and we can change the maps or the channels of the textures. We have diffuse, metalness, normal, and roughness, and those are standard channels that we use in video games. We'll begin with the snapshot. In here we have some options. We have the file name, where we will save the UV snapshot. Then we can change the resolution of the map, or of the snapshot itself. We can set it to be anti-aliased, and we can change the color of the wireframe as well. Then we have the option to define where the snapshot is going to be taking. So by default it's set to 0 to 1, which is this 0 to 1, 0 to 1, but we can change the tiles. We can, if we are to use this for UDIMs, we can select the different tiles. We can change the numbers in here, or if we have many tiles, we can always choose all tiles. In this case, we'll set the 0 to 1 and click save. And this is what the UV snapshot looks like. This is the wireframe, this is the color that we've selected, and even though there is no straightforward use for that, this is not exactly a texture map. There's no useful information here, but this can be used as the information for creating some kind of masks or creating some kind of patterns in Photoshop or things like that. So basically, this is just a guide for us to see where the UVs are, and this way we can paint something on the top of this guide and load it as a texture in another application. And lastly, we have the bake textures, or texture bake, and the options in here are quite similar. We have the file name, the file size, or the texture size. Then we have the UV area and things like that. And then we can change the texture type. The thing about it is that this is not a baking process. Again, not in a traditional way. If you're familiar with other applications like Substance Painter, Max, Maya, ZBrush, basically any other tools out there, this is not the tool to bake the maps. This will not take the information from the high-res geometry and put it on the low-res geometry. This will simply take an image that we have as a texture on the garment, and then it will simply bake that image into a channel. And then we can come in here and check what just happened. And do not get confused that in this application we can actually bake the maps, the traditional maps that we can come into Marvelous Designer and easily create our normal maps, create the roughness, create the metalness and things like that, and then just load it in the Unreal Engine or Marmoset or things like that. This is not what it does. This is not how it works. This is a image bake. This is texture bake. This is not a traditional high res to low res baking tool.